At what point will I need a coach? Because I'm talking for all international medical graduates. I've come to the UK. I'm just finding my footing. My dream is to get into specialty training. I've gotten into specialty training, pediatrics, anesthesia, whatever I've been praying for. When do I need a coach?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And here I'm going to bring in another analogy, right? So this is from the person who taught me coaching and like the owner of the institute that I went to. And he says that's when you want to work with a coach. Let's stick with the sports analogy for the moment and say, why did they slow down instead of speeding up? Why did they do those things? The coach doesn't actually know, and he's not in the game, but a really good coach will be able to ask the right questions to not understand for himself, but to help the player understand what could he have done differently.
Hi everybody, you're welcome to today's episode of Maverick Med with Dr. Hannah Brew. And I'm really excited today because I have with me, damn roll, Dr. Shubhendu Kulshreshtha. Shub, I have been rehearsing your name all morning. Did I get it right?
Absolutely. That was beautifully done. Thank you.
Thank you. So Shub is an executive coach, but as always, I just like to let my guests introduce themselves. So who are you?
Yeah, so everybody calls me Shub. I am Shub. I'm an IMG. I'm an emergency medicine doctor, so senior registrar at the moment. And I'm also an executive coach helping clinicians make medicine their side hustle. And we can expand on any of those as much as you like, whatever's relevant for your audience.
So I like the fact that you said you are an IMG because this podcast is targeted for IMGs and we are inspiring international medical graduates one story at a time. So tell me, did you always want to be a doctor?
Oh, the simple answer is no. I think probably about 10 months before getting into medicine or starting med school, I would probably say, no, I don't want to do medicine. So it's quite...
So less than a year before
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, when you're in India, you're just thinking about, medicine or engineering. Those are kind of like the two options that you constantly think about that everybody gives you. And for a long time, I was really prepping to get into engineering, and I was like prepping for the entrance exams and the national exam and all of those things. And then very soon before starting medicine, I had a change of events, and I said, okay, fine, I'll do medicine. So it was very short for me, and I never thought I'd be a doctor.
So it was more like it's a sliding doors moment. It could have been anyway. It could have been anything really.
Sort of. I mean, what I knew I wanted was to not stand behind a desk or sit behind a desk and just work on a computer and spend 5 years learning something that I was never going to use for the rest of my life. So I said, I want to be hands-on. I want to make a difference. And I want to put my time, that age of like 18 to 22, 24, whatever, into something that's going to pay me back for the rest of my life. And in India, engineering isn't always that. It's a bit of a hit and miss. And then most people go on to do an MBA. And at that point, I said, if I do an MBA and become a manager, I'm never going to use my engineering skills. So like, that's not what I want to do. And then I met a few more doctors. Some people in my family were doctors. And then I realized that's actually quite a good job to do. Like, you're hands-on, you're making a difference, you're not behind a desk. And it hit a couple of the check boxes, and I was kind of decent at biology. I was also doing maths. So I said, okay, let's see what this is about, and let's do it.
I wonder what she must have told you in your interview panel when you went to medical school interview. Did you have medical school interviews in India?
No, we didn't. So we had a national exam.
Lucky you. Well, no.
Well,
even worse.
I don't know what's worse or what's better, right? Like we had exams, so I gave a lot of exams, chose whichever one I wanted to get into, and there wasn't many choices I had. I had probably 2 or 3 places that I could choose from. I did get to the one that I really wanted. I didn't get into anything else that everybody else wanted, but I was happy. So I went to Manipal. For if any of your listeners are from Manipal, I went to Manipal for med school. Started in 2012. And I'll be honest, throughout the whole journey there, I still didn't feel convinced that I was going to be a doctor for the rest of my life. And yeah.
What was medical school like for you? I'm interested.
Oh, it was really good. So it's 4.5 years in...
Years of medicine?
No, 4.5 years of training, and then a year of internship, so a total of 5.5 years.
Oh, right. Yeah. You gave me a scare there. I thought, wow, that was quick.
That's way too quick.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, in India, 4.5 years is divided into like 2 years of basic sciences, and then you start
Mm-hmm.
going into the hospital, into clinic, and then
Mm-hmm.
your final 2 years are more clinical specialties like gen surg, medicine, whereas your initial years are anatomy, biochemistry, pharmacology,
Yeah.
and it was serious. I mean, we would spend a whole month studying the entire lower limb, just one lower limb for a whole month. The muscles, the nerves, the arteries, everything. It's just like really, really serious. But yeah, what I really enjoyed during that time was not just like the classes and like all of the cultural aspect of being in university, but I really enjoyed being part of a surgical society. So for a long time, I thought I'd do surgery, and now I do emergency medicine. So there's clearly a theme to my life. Yeah, I joined a surgical society,
As a
learned
medical student.
as a medical student, yeah, and we
All
learned
right.
early skills, so early learning of suturing, first aid, plastering, fixation, things like that. And then very quickly became part of the committee, and then eventually became president of the surgical society in my final year. And that was really a nice journey. I mean, when I was president, we had about 400 to 600 members for whom we'd do the whole curriculum. We'd organize a fest, a surgical fest, so we'd come up with games, and we'd have people visiting. So it was a whole thing, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. Without that, I don't know what med school would have been like. That was
I can
a
see the
really
excitement in your eyes as you recall these things. I mean, yes, it must have been thrilling. I mean, I really pity those who go through medical school as a run through, you know, like ticking boxes, just passing exams. And I'm thinking, this is the best moment of your life. Why are you in a hurry? Where are you going to? Because once you finish, the worst is yet to come. Just take your time, just enjoy it, go for parties. Have a girlfriend, have a boyfriend, have a drink, go out, make all the mistakes you can now, because after that, life just hits you like a ton.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So after medical school, how did you find yourself in the UK? What happened?
So yeah, so sort of second year of med school is when I decided that I want to not practice in India. I want to go abroad. And the system was a bit of a hit and miss system, still is in India. I couldn't see myself working in a government setting. Private hospitals had a different hierarchy and a different game that I wasn't really wanting to play. And then the quality of education. So whether you get into a postgraduate training program in India, where you go to is very important and very different. And for some reason, I'd always been interested in going abroad. So second year, I was ready to do my USMLEs. I was really prepping and saying, oh, okay,
Wow.
I'll do my step one at some point. And then later realized, okay, we need a little bit more clinical experience, postponed it to the end of internship. And by the time we got to internship, things had changed slightly. I mean, one of the big things was that my father was unwell. He had been diagnosed with cancer and then had a recurrence, unfortunately, by final year, and eventually, unfortunately, did pass away. And so this was the time at which I said, okay, I wanted to go abroad. I had limited funds in terms of, I mean, of course, my family was there to support me through all of this, but there is that sort of feeling when you say, okay, I just got to like start earning now, because you got to get independent, and that sense of, okay, what life is hitting you comes
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
And so the whole time I said, okay, fine, I'll enjoy surgery. I thought I'd be an orthopod. But then when I came to internship, I really realized that the subject is very different from the way you practice medicine. Yeah.
Tell me more
Who knew?
about
Who
that.
knew? so yeah, went around different departments, and in 1 year we do a lot. There's no work time regulation, so we're working like 70-90 hour weeks, and just doing, every department is at least 2 months, except for some departments which are shorter, like 3 or 6 months. So you do everything from peds to ENT to ophthalmology, surgery, medicine, all of it. And when I went to emergency medicine was the time when I really enjoyed it, and I said, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to be there for people when they need me
It's
the
like emergency
most.
medicine is the melting pot, isn't it? It's where
Exactly.
everything is, all the
Everything.
action. It's
It
kind of
was
GP but on steroids.
exactly. And people
Yeah.
really needed you. And for me, the thing that stood out was that I really aligned with the people I was working with. Like, they felt like my people. I felt like I fit in. I didn't have to pretend. And
You
believe
found
it or
your
not,
tribe.
I found my tribe, exactly. And I
Mm.
actually liked the shift schedule. Something that
Mm-hmm.
people hate even till today. I love the
I
shift
know that.
schedule.
Oh gosh, I didn't like A&E. Gosh.
Yeah.
You must be really strange to enjoy the odd nights. And then you guys were up at late, eating at 2 a.m. And I'm thinking, who are these people?
It's very odd. But I love having some times of the day when I'm free and I can just walk around in sunlight and see the day. And I like the fact that when you're done with your shift, you're done with your shift. You don't know what to expect when you come in, but you also don't have anything worrying you when you leave because you've handed over and you're done.
Yeah.
So I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that. And I said, okay, I want to do emergency medicine, but this was a very new and nascent field in India. And at the same time, Brexit was sort of coming around. A couple of my seniors in university had managed to get to UK. And the more I tried to learn about emergency medicine, the more I came across the Royal College of Emergency Medicine. And I said, hey, why not just like do this? So I decided to take up PLAB. And so I did PLAB during my internship, like 2 phases. So I did the first one during internship.
Could you do, I'm sorry, could you
No, no.
do the PLAB in India, or you had to come to the UK to do the PLAB?
So the first part I did in India.
Okay.
And the second part I had to come to the UK. After, I think we needed IELTS before the first one. So yeah, IELTS in
Yeah.
India, then PLAB 1 in India, then came to UK for PLAB 2.
Yeah. What was your experience taking the PLAB? Had you been to UK before?
I had been to UK before as
Okay.
like on holidays and family trips. Maybe once, I think twice, I can't remember.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all wild, but it was obviously, but I was a bit anxious to get here to just like travel on my own. My whole life was basically in like 2.5 suitcases, like 2 check-in plus a half cabin bag, and that was
Like a typical
everything.
IMG story.
Yeah, just
23
everything.
kg, 23 kg, and then maybe a 10 kg extra.
Exactly. That's all. And I just had to like give everything else away. So I came in that. And initial days, I mean, when I landed, I went straight up to Carlisle where my aunt used to live, and that's on the border of Scotland, and that's where I did an observership. And the more north I went, the less I could understand people, but also the less they could understand me. And I said, we're speaking English still, right? Like it was so odd, it was so unusual. But apart from like the cultural experience, very quickly figured out that everything is kind of simplified. Like in India, you kind of have to always be on the lookout. Someone's out to get you. Rules are unwritten. You have to make your way. You're constantly fighting on a daily basis. Whereas everything's kind of written here. And if I didn't know something, I just Google it. And Reddit would give me the answer, or Quora would give me the answer. So very quickly learned that.
Reddit, Quora. Gosh, you sound really Gen Z. Now I'm thinking Google, Quora. Really? Anyway, yeah, that's impressive. It just shows that we are from slightly different time.
I am a millennial officially, I think.
Oh yes, you are. You are
Yeah.
indeed. But you've got a Gen Z mindset to be talking about all these things.
Not as much as my wife, but yeah, a little bit.
Bro, maybe even influenced.
Definitely.
Yeah. Right. So from Carlisle observership, what happened after that?
So yeah, while I was doing my observership in Carlisle, my wife was doing hers. Well, now wife was doing hers in Leicester, and I had just finished.
Carlisle, Leicester.
Yeah,
That's a
it was quite
distance,
far,
isn't it?
Yeah. So I can't even remember if this was before my GMC registration. Like I think I was waiting to hear back about my PLAB 2 results.
Wait, the observership was before you had finished PLAB?
I think I did PLAB 2 and I was waiting for results, and that's when I did the observership.
So you just had the foot in the door. Oh, okay, that's impressive. I never did anything like that. I didn't even knew about it. So
okay.
I mean, yeah, impressive that you did that.
I mean, that's what everybody else who came before me did, and they said you have to get one because that's the only way you can show that you know about NHS.
The UK system.
Exactly.
Right.
And now it's even harder to do that in today's time. But yeah, my wife was.
I heard it's really difficult now because there's lots of doctors.
Yeah. So my wife was in Leicester, and she told me that they're holding interviews, and there's a lot of IMGs there. So I said, okay, I really want to get an interview, and that was the first interview I did. I signed up, and then I traveled all the way down to Leicester to do it in person because this was all pre-COVID, and thankfully it went well. It was 2 cases, very quick. I didn't know at the time if it went well or not, but it ended with them saying, we'd like to offer you the job. Would you like to take it? And I said, yes, please. Yeah.
What role did you apply for?
So this was emergency medicine. It was
okay.
I'd say junior clinical fellow, I think. Like an F2-ish role. Yeah.
But then it wasn't too far from what you were doing already. So at least you had some experience prior to it. So it wasn't textbook you were talking from. You had some clinical knowledge.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I hadn't actually practiced after internship in India at all. So I didn't actually have a clinical job in India. This was my first real life job, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But they seem to have a lot more IMGs, a lot of people. So they had a support system in place. They were used to seeing us. They knew what we were good at, what we struggled at. And then I'd spoken to a couple of my colleagues and my seniors, and I think we were kind of ready to get started.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. My Riverside does that sometimes.
Yes, that's the trouble with Riverside. Thank you for even noticing and going back to it. But other than that, so you were talking about history taking.
Yeah. So I had basics of history taking and examination, and I feel like
Yeah.
it was reliable enough for me. And at that point, I was just like, okay, I'm just going to collect information and ask for help, and collect information and ask for help.
That's the mindset. At least you were willing to ask for help and you knew where your shortcoming or your shortfalls were.
Yeah,
And I think basically that's what they look out for as an international medical graduate. They don't want someone who is all perfect and knows everything, but someone who is willing to learn. The preparedness is what the panels often look out for.
absolutely. And I think the fact that I hadn't actually worked after internship before was kind of on my side because I didn't have any expectations. I didn't have like a way in which I did things, and then I had to unlearn and
Yeah.
relearn.
You didn't have your own bad habits.
Exactly.
So you were green and they could mold you.
Yeah, I think that was it. So yeah, it was good. I still remember the first day I showed up, and we were still on paper notes in this trust, and I said to them, "Okay,
Yeah.
like I'm ready. Like I have my badge and stuff. Where do I get a pen? Because I need a pen." And they said, "Well, you got to get your own pen." And I said, "What do you mean I have to get my own pen?" They're like, "Yeah, get your own pen because we're not going to give you pens." I said, "But it's what I need for doing the job." It's just that was my introduction to
Bold. I've never heard that before. Get a pen.
emergency
Were you being
department.
supplied pens back in India?
Good question. I don't think so. But
So now you're being
I
ridiculous.
just had expectations from the NHS, right? I said, oh, I'm going
All
abroad. I'm
right.
working for the NHS. It's all fancy. They do things
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
But I think that was my harsh introduction to saying the NHS
Mm.
is also no perks. It's basically a government job like any other government job.
It's not a perfect.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
perfect one. Yes, but a lot better than from where some of us have come from comparatively.
Yeah.
So, how has been your journey? So, we found our first job in Leicester. How did you get into specialty training?
Yeah, so Leicester, I had only two goals. One was to get my CREST form signed off, and my second was to get a driving license. And that's the only thing I
At least you
focused
had it clear. You know, you weren't muffled about what am I doing here. Follow the crowd. You had a clear plan.
Yeah, I think the crest was I had a group of people with me. Everybody sort of started at the same time. We were all on the crest journey. We got our crest form signed off, and this was the year when we could suddenly start applying in round one. So until then, only round.
This is 2019-ish, isn't it?
Yes, so I started the job in Jan of 2019, and so
Yeah.
then applications opened.
Because Crest came in 2018. I remember it was a new thing. Was pretty brand new. And at that time, I was working as an SHO, and then someone said, "Oh, Han, would you be interested? There's a role for international. I mean, not for international medical graduates, but you would pretty much fit into this role." And I said, "Oh, thank you, but I've just been offered a few jobs. I mean, I was starting GP training by then." So you mentioning it, I have an idea the timeline when Crest came in. Do you remember the full name for Crest?
I think it was.
The chap I was asking if you remember the full name for Crest. Oh, it's still
Yes, so
0%.
I think it was a certificate
I don't think
of.
it's recording. Okay. Yeah, we'll do it again. Sharp, do you remember the full name for Crest?
Yeah, so I think it stands for Certificate of Readiness to Enter Specialty Training. So just a short form of that became CREST. So yeah, you're right. I think it was introduced very early 2019.
I think it was post COVID, and then because a lot of the EU doctors had left, there was that void,
Yeah,
and then they needed to fill it,
exactly.
and we were the next available.
That's it. That's it. We got lucky,
So
right? And
yeah,
so
and I think it was for the first time you could apply for the first round, even if you didn't have a British passport.
exactly. So I wasn't ready for that. I was like, okay, I had my plan. I was going to do ALS, APLS, and build my portfolio really slow and steady. And suddenly they announced that you can apply in round one. So instead of being ready for Jan, I had to now apply in November. That was 3 months of time
earlier.
lost, and I was like, oh, I'm just scrambling, getting things done, getting signed off, getting it done. Made my application, managed to get the interview, and I think my interview was like 10th or 14th of Jan or something like that, and I was still doing my APLS on the 7th of Jan. I think like
Wow.
the week before I got my APLS in. But it was all about like figuring out how to play the game, just knowing which points I need and what's the best one I can gather.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went to London to do the interview.
Where did you do it?
London, I don't remember where the center was. I don't think it was at Arkham. No, definitely not at Arkham. I just can't remember. But it was a building.
That's all right.
Went upstairs. There was like a line of us. We went through all sorts of stations.
Where there are lots of people. I always try to remember my experience. I'd never been to Etihad Stadium before. And then I get this invitation, and then I go to Etihad Stadium. I'm thinking there are about 3,000 people. And I just went with a pair of trousers and a shirt, and I tucked in like a normal day at work. And then I have these white guys, and then they are wearing 3-piece suits with brown shoes, and they look like it's their wedding day.
Oh gosh.
I felt so intimidated. I'm thinking, what am I doing here? So in my mind, I had even lost before the battle started. But thankfully,
Gosh.
I scaled through.
Well
what
done.
was your experience?
I think I had a bad habit of wearing, well, not a full suit, but like formals. Like I liked my formals. I was in trousers and a usual t-shirt, and it was cold in January. I think I can't even remember if
so
it was
maybe a
January.
few jackets or
Yeah, a
something.
few
It's quite
layers.
nippy today, actually.
Yeah, and I think there was a few more of us that I found from Leicester in the same interview as well. So I felt like, okay,
So you felt
some
comfortable.
familiar faces. And I still remember the first station I had was this teaching station. So they give you a topic, and you have like 10 minutes to prep, and then the next station you have a whiteboard and you have to present the topic. And I was expecting.
Remember what topic you did?
Yeah. So I'd prepped for so many things. I was like, things like reduce stabbing, like current trends, exit block, allied healthcare, all these things which are like hot topics for emergency medicine at the time. And the one I got was resilience. Just one word, resilience. That's all I had to talk about. And I was like, what am I going to talk about?
What a curveball, because you're thinking something practical, something A&E,
Yeah. So I was
unconscious patients.
Okay, cool. And I was like telling myself, maybe it's not about the topic, it's just about how you present it. So I was like, okay, be structured. And I drew some random diagram of a tree, like a young tree being resilient because it pops back up because of the green wood being flexible, and something that I made up. I was
like even when it goes through the seasons, it sheds its leaf, but then it comes back again. Oh, that's brilliant. I wouldn't have thought about that. When I think about resilience, I think about, there's this really common picture about a leaf that is coming out through a crack on the road. So you see that you wouldn't expect the leaf to be there, but it just blossoms. And sometimes it's either a brown patched floor or a tarmac or a bitumen road. And then you have this green leaf that is just flourishing. And I'm thinking, what are you doing here? That is resilience.
That is resilience. Yeah. Just like surviving the harshest of conditions and bouncing back.
Yeah.
So that was, and then I had a couple more stations, which I think went okay, from just like the people smiling back at me, except the last one, which is my portfolio station, where I was kind of tired and I said, okay, there's not much for me to do here. They're going to look through my portfolio and say yes or no, but they actually wanted me to talk about a bit of my experience and
what
things.
You've done.
And I had a little bit of a wake up at the last end saying like, oh, sorry, I had to like actually sell myself, and I wasn't used to it at all.
Yeah.
So I scored the lowest in that station, and the other stations were thankfully good enough for me to get me just over the line to say, okay, you're eligible to get a training number. So, yeah, it was a journey.
So did you guys also rank where you wanted to go? Because for GP, I got offers in GP, pediatrics, and psychiatry, and for all of them, you had to rank where you wanted to go. Was it the same for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I applied for acute medicine, anesthetics, and ED because I wanted to do ACCS. And then I think I had applied to GP, but I didn't do the interviews, I think. I can't remember. But clearly anesthetics and acute med could tell that I wasn't one of theirs. I didn't even get the interview. So yeah, ED is all I had. And then I had to rank. And then, so at this point I was working in Basildon, which is east of England, and my and our wife was also in that region. So we were, and she was about to apply to standalone FT training. So honestly, I know, like 3 years, 3 or 4 years, I think we had subsequent years where I was applying for something, she was applying for something, and we just like, the ranking, we just hope it works out. We just hope it works out. And we kept moving
Because
around.
it could throw you to different parts of the country. You know, it doesn't really
Absolutely.
care that you are married. But I think nowadays they are making reasonable adjustments where people can apply and say, look, I've got a spouse here. It's become a bit more friendly, I understand. But back then it wasn't.
No. No, so I just looked at the map and I said, "What's the smallest deanery?" It was Thames Valley, so Reading, Oxford region. And I
Yeah.
said, "Okay, that makes it easy because if you have more deaneries around it, so you can get anything." So we did
Yeah.
that, and then so she started off with a standalone training in Chichester, which is like sort of between Southampton and Brighton, halfway there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was up in Reading, so we were like near Southampton, and we were both commuting. And then the next 3 years, we were kind of commuting. Either she was doing an hour one way, or I was doing an hour one way. But somehow we made it
By
work.
then you had passed. By then you had passed your driver's license at
Yes,
least.
yes. I got my driving license.
Yes,
I was
hooray!
driving. Then she got her driving license. Then she got into
Yeah.
post-surgical training, and we've been trying to hop around and make it work. Yeah.
Congratulations. It's really nice. So now you're in training, and then you've gone through, you've got your RChem, and you decide that it's all not worth it. I just want to do executive coaching.
Yeah, kind of. So, I mean, that's where I am now. So, I am currently technically out of program. So, I have my training number. We relocated to Norwich. So,
Mm-hmm.
where I couldn't go to my usual deanery anymore. It's about 3.5 hours away. So,
Mm-hmm.
I've taken a career break and said I'm out of program and I'm applying for a deanery transfer. Simultaneously, I was exploring other options. I was looking to get into management consulting and was ready to go, just quit and just give up my training post, and did a quality improvement fellowship where I was doing 50% quality improvement work and discovered the world of coaching. And that's when I realized that, hey, this is something I really enjoy doing. It's a really nice way of using my skills in a way that makes a difference and makes an impact, allows people to bring their ideas to reality, and nobody dies at the end of the day, right? So I was
But it
excited.
dies.
I was really excited. And then when I went out of program, I really got the opportunity to double down on building this business. So firstly, I got ILR in January, which allowed me to start business. Thank you
Congratulations.
very much. Last
For
January.
international medical graduate, it's a
It's a
big
big deal.
deal.
It's a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah,
My friend actually, she said, "Han, I've got my passport. I'm throwing a party." I said, "Yay!" You know.
exactly.
So
It's a big
yeah,
deal. Absolutely.
yeah.
So I could start coaching, and then I really initially was focused on other IMGs. I said, hey, what do I have
Mm-hmm.
experience with that I can help them do without telling them what to do, because I don't actually
Yeah.
understand their situation, but
Right. So
coaching. Let's
let's
back up.
pause it.
Yeah.
Who is a coach? So the first time I heard the concept of coaching beyond my father watching football and shouting and saying, and then my mom says, "Are you the coach?" You know, because my mom would always jab me and say, "Are you the coach?" Let's leave the coach alone. And then my daddy would say, "Oh no, he should have done this. He should replace this person." That is my first knowledge of who a coach is. And then when I was in secondary school, I watched this really good movie called Coach Carter. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but a black boy, football and basketball. And I'm thinking that, again, when I think about coaching, that is what comes to mind. Is that who you are?
Yeah, I think I really like that analogy, and I like the question around what is coaching, because it's so hard to explain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's stick with the sports analogy for the moment
Mm-hmm.
and say you've got somebody who's standing on the sidelines, not actually playing the game, but is able to help the players play better, right? And ideally, the coach doesn't really know why or how the player took the decision that the player took. Like, why did they pass
Mm-hmm.
instead of shooting? Why did they slow down instead of speeding up? Why did they do those things? The coach doesn't actually know, and he's not in the game. But a really good coach will be able to ask the right questions to not understand for himself, but to help the player understand what could he have done differently.
What
So
could he have done differently?
yeah, so it's not really about telling them what to do. And sometimes coaches do tell the player to just do this, just do that. But a really good coach will watch, listen, reflect back what actually happened, and then ask powerful questions that allow you to change the way you do things.
Sharp. Yeah, you go on.
No, go ahead.
At what point will I need a coach? Because I'm talking for all international medical graduates. I've come to the UK. I'm just finding my footing. My dream is to get into specialty training. I've gotten into specialty training, pediatrics, anesthesia, whatever I've been praying for. When do I need a coach?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and here I'm going to bring in another analogy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is from the person who taught me coaching and like the owner of the institute that I went to, and he says when
Mm-hmm.
you have a faraway destination that you want to get to, and you don't know how to get there, you take a coach, like a bus, literally a bus, a coach. And so the same analogy says like when you've got a big destination that you want to get to, you want a surety of getting to that destination. That's when you want to work with a coach. So this is where it kind of gets messy, right? There's different types of coaches. There's a lot of people who focus on particular outcomes. There's burnout coaches, there's high performance coaches, there's executive coaches, there's leadership coaches. All of it is a different sort of focus on what you're trying to achieve. So when I worked with IMGs, there was a couple of things that they wanted to achieve, right? They wanted to very quickly integrate into the team. They wanted to become a part of the people that they're working with. There was huge cultural elements behind that. They wanted to be seen at par with local doctors as well, which meant at par in terms of the opportunities they got, the way they were perceived, their experience at work and self-esteem. And they wanted to be able to have equal opportunities at the end of the day, because that's why they're here. Right. All of this combined with the unique experience of an IMG, which is kind of what we've gone through, which is like leaving your own country, living in a suitcase, money, family, loss, all of this stuff, right? So many of us managed to do it without a coach, which is fine. It's like
We just wing
you
it.
just wing it, and
Yeah.
many of us it works, many of us it doesn't. It's a hard road as well. And so it's kind of like if you want to lose weight, you join the gym, right? You take a gym membership. But some people say, I'm really, really serious about this and I really desperately need this particular outcome and I want to work with a coach who can get me there. And so
So would we say that a coach then is like a personal trainer?
in some ways, yeah. In many ways, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So which coaching do you do?
Yeah, so my coaching is executive coaching. I'm very much not focused on burnout. I'm very much about problem solving, taking action. I do bring my experience in the emergency department, so I do come with a slightly high performance lens of saying, how do you thrive under pressure? How do you perform under pressure? How do you lead a team when the decision making is high stakes? And then also I have a little bit of an entrepreneurial aspect to me, plus the experience with the surgical club and running teaching sessions. I like to work with people who really want to make an impact. So that's my area of helping people get clarity on the next steps.
Your life sounds really perfect. Have you failed at anything before? Oh, that's a long laugh. Now it's like you're mocking me.
No, that's the question, because my wife gets really annoyed. She's like, "Oh, sure, we just keep doing things and you make it look easy." And I'm like, "No, I don't."
Yeah.
I failed at.
Oh, so I'm not the only one who was noticed that your wife has noticed it as well.
Unfortunately, yes. No, there's lots that I fail at, and the key is to set low goals. I don't set big targets for myself, so I can't fail. No, but I failed history in school. That was a big one for me. I failed history. I almost failed Hindi, which is my mother tongue, so it was not that great. And then just since then, it's just been like one goal, small goals, and get them better.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of
and
what
and your secret is because you lowball it. You don't
yeah.
set big goals. You just go for the little one.
Well, I don't know if it's the size of the goals. I used to think it was, but then recently I've realized maybe it's just about having clarity on what is the one or two things that you need to achieve. You know, like that first year in Leicester talked to you, I'm like, very clearly just crest form and driving license. Nothing else matters.
Yeah. So
and
just two.
just
Go
two
for
things.
it.
Just two things. And I think when I have that clarity, then I can achieve things. And there's been periods when like I've not had that clarity and I've not really achieved what I set out to achieve. And it doesn't reflect in the story I've told, because once you get into training, it's kind of a little bit on autopilot and you kind of keep going. But when you really want something, you have the clarity behind it, then that's a lot more achievable. And that's a huge part of coaching as well, like having clarity on the goal you want to set. And then
so what would you say is the hardest thing you've done in your life?
Oh, ask me tough questions here, Hannah. I'd probably say coming to UK was one of the hardest things I've done. Like I didn't realize it then. I was very young and naive, but leaving a country behind and not knowing if something will work out and really chasing something in another part of the world is probably one of the hardest things, apart from running a business.
Oh yeah, I get
That's
that
been
all the time. I think you need. I'm not there yet. I've not been able to run any business. Well, maybe apart from my kitchen, trying to organize food, my home, and all that. But that's probably the hardest thing I do every day. Just trying to live everyday life is hard enough for me. So I can't think of adding a business to it at this time.
Yeah.
Right. Shub, I ask difficult questions.
I love it. I like hard questions.
What upsets you about society today?
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
interested.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm so glad you asked me that. There's so much. Actually, there's not much that upsets me, but there's a lot that upsets me about the way doctors' value and the doctor's perception is being changed in society. And it upsets me that many of us don't know that it's changing. We want to hold on to the old way of our role in society, but believe it or not, it's being very strategically and actively changed. Like I used to have this whole thing about like 3 versions of healthcare, right? So like healthcare 1.
Enlighten me. Yes.
Healthcare 1.0, right? Like back in the days when like there was just one doctor for the village and you'd go to him, you'd have a one-on-one relationship. They would know you, they would know your family. There was a lot of status and
They'll come for your wedding, come for your grandma's funeral.
Exactly. And that the whole village would look after this one doctor because they would give back to the society. And that was like the olden times. And then slowly there were more doctors and they got a lot of value and a lot of status, and some of it was misused and blah, blah, blah. But also we hit the industrial revolution, right? We realized that by systemizing things, we can improve efficiency, improve the output, and make things safer. And so what did? We brought the same into healthcare. We established systems which improved longevity of patients, which improved health outcomes, which improved accessibility, but it also made doctors a piece in the puzzle that allowed those outcomes to be possible, right? And this has been fantastic because everyone's on board, everyone's really happy about it. But now we're sort of seeing the fag end of that, where we don't hold the value that we used to have. That personal relationship has disappeared. We don't have a community supporting us around us. Our role has been further subdivided to say, hey, you don't need to do everything. A nurse practitioner, a PA, HCP, a radiologist, AI can do little bits of your job. And that's actively happening right now. And that's changing the role of a doctor in the healthcare system, in the society. And it really bothers me that we're not all on it, because 10 years down the line, maybe not even 10 years, maybe 5 years down the line, what a doctor is expected to do, or the value of a doctor, is going to be so different.
So what do we have to do?
And so this is the third bit, right? So the healthcare 3.0 is what there's a man named Shubhendu Kulshreshtha. He's got a YouTube channel called ZDog MD. He talks about this a lot, and I love his podcasts and everything else. So you can listen to him talk about this as well. And he talks about healthcare 3.0. And he talks about going back to making the patient-doctor relationship the center of all of it. Right. It's about realizing that the healthcare system is not there just for the patients, but actually create the environment where the doctor-patient relationship can happen. At the moment, it kind of seems like the hospitals look at the outcomes that the patients have, but almost don't realize that the ones making that happen are the providers, the doctors, nurses, physios, dietitians, everyone else on the front line. Being able to change that environment, taking care of the people that take care of the people, is going to have to be the way forward. And it's not going to be AI, it's not going to be new technology, it's going to be a complete reshift of the way we actually organize things. At the same time, I think from a doctor's perspective, we need to take control of our value. We need to realize what we're bringing to the world. And that's not just our knowledge, that's not just our degrees, that's our experience, the unique way we look at things, the ability we have to talk to people and understand what's going on in their world. And actually, yeah. You hear me?
I can hear you now.
Lovely.
So you're talking about how we need to position ourselves, like take control of our role as a doctor, and not allow the system to. So you take it from there.
100%. Yeah. So I mean, I'm talking to so many clinicians who are unhappy with their careers, and they're unhappy straight out of medical school, and that's like before burnout even hits you. Maybe it would have hit, but I don't know. The one thing that I'm realizing
Pre-burnout.
pre-burnout, right? Like the one thing I'm realizing is none of us, and I will say literally none of us, are in this for the sake of making money. We are here because we want to make a difference in the world. We really want to make an impact, and so a lot of thinking and talking around this made me think about, like, okay, what is an impactful clinician? Who is an impactful clinician? And I'm gonna have to refer to some notes here, but essentially I came up with this idea that there's three things that come together to create an impactful clinician, right? One is a sense of ownership. So you have ownership and responsibility of something and an outcome. Number two is a position of influence. And number three is equity. So that's both financial equity, but then also equity in terms of the value that you create belonging to you. So, for example, right now when we go to the hospital, we deliver services. We get a salary, but we don't get equity. We don't get a piece of the puzzle. So
you've mentioned three main points. Let's expatiate it. So the first one, you're talking about ownership. I remember the third one is equity. What's the middle one?
Position of influence.
Position of influence.
So it's like
let's take it from the top.
Yeah, it's like a Venn diagram. So if you imagine two of them, right? So if you own something and you have a position of influence, then you're kind of like an influencer or a manager. You don't get the benefits, you don't get the rewards, you don't actually have equity. So you don't really care about whether something works or not. You own it and you influence.
I lost you there. Can we start again from the influencer?
Yeah, sure. So
from the first one on the Venn diagram, you said, so owner.
So, and this is a work in progress. So I'd love for people to comment and tell me if they disagree with this. But if you own something and you are in a position of influence, but you don't have equity, like you don't actually get the benefit or the outcome, the value that you create, then you're probably in a position where you're either a manager or an influencer, and you're essentially selling your time to influence. And the way that you're getting money is not by the value that you create, but just by the role that you. Yes.
Is it better now?
Right. Yes. So that's the overlap of those two things. If you've got an overlap of owning something and then having a piece of the pie, so you own something and then you get money from it, so you get financial freedom. That's like being a business owner. And without the piece of influence, you're just a business owner that's running a business and, providing a product or a service. And then if you've got a position of influence and you've got equity or financial freedom.
So you've got skin in the game.
Yeah, but you don't actually own anything. Like you're not responsible for anything. Then the only thing I could actually think of is like you're kind of like a politician. I don't know. And the problem is, so in the first combination, you're selling your time. In the second combination, where you're a business person, you're lacking the recognition and the influence to actually make an impact. And in the third one, you're lacking legacy. So you have skin in the game, but you don't own anything. So when you go, everything goes.
I'm just thinking as a salaried GP.
Yeah.
As against if I was a partner, I know it's my business. I need to be there, And then the other one I would say is more like a locum. I go when I can. When I can't, not today.
Yeah. You're selling your time and then you don't have equity. But as a partner, you kind of have all three of them as a partner.
Yes.
And that's why becoming a partner.
Relating it, so that's how I think about the Venn diagram that you've just given me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really interesting to also think about, because when we think about expanding our career and we say like, hey, just a clinical role alone is not enough. We want more. We often try to do something else that doesn't hit all three realms. So for example, if you want financial freedom and you own a product, you start selling the product, or like you do these affiliate links on Amazon or like travel business things, then you're selling a product that you're not really responsible for influencing, then it doesn't hit the fulfillment mark that many of us are looking for.
Yeah.
because we're not actually making the impact we originally wanted to have. Like your example of being a salaried GP, if you're looking to do something more, you might say like, hey, I'll leave and I'll go into like an industry roles, right? I'll go and join pharma industry or like management consulting or something, right? You don't have a piece of the pie, you don't have equity. So you'll be selling your time, you'll own something, you might have some influence because you'll have a position of authority as a medic,
Yeah.
but you won't have the end piece. And then so many people that I spoke to were on this journey, took really hard steps to step out, but didn't get the fulfillment they were looking for. And I was begging the question, why did that happen? What was missing, right? And it all took me back to realizing that the one thing that we wanted was to make an impact. And somewhere along the way, we got lost. So this is just like what helps me think about how to help people.
So bringing it back, for us to make an impact, we need all three components. We need an intersection of all the three, of ownership, position, and equity.
Yes.
For us to be able to feel that, yes, indeed, I've got skin in the game and I'm able to.
Yeah, I think so.
To control, how things are going. Otherwise, you end up feeling a bit powerless, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the truth is that at one point, medicine used to be that for us. Being a doctor would be an intersection of all three of them. It would be an intersection of our passions. It would be an intersection of solving valuable problems. But now it isn't always. It isn't really. Something's missing.
Do you know when I got the wake-up call? It was at the tail end of the pandemic, when they asked that they club for us every day. Were you here? Yes, you were here.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I knew a few people that I lost, friends, senior colleagues who died working with the NHS. And then I started reflecting that really, is all this for clubs? Exactly. Is that all what it means?
Exactly.
So that was when the penny dropped for me. Wow.
Yeah. That is having absolute no equity in the value that you create. All you get is claps. That's all that's left.
Sad, but yeah. Anyway, let's get on something that is more upbeat.
Yeah, let's do it.
A bit abstract, but yeah. What does winning mean to you, Shub?
What does winning mean to me?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been asked this question. I like your questions, Hannah. Winning to me, I think, is an ongoing process. It means it's not an end goal. It's like I'm winning.
An infinite game.
It's an infinite game, and I'm winning when I'm doing what I set out to do. And I'm the one who sets out what I have to do. Nobody else can do that for me. I set my own targets and my own goals. And if I'm hitting them on a daily basis, then I'm winning.
So again, it comes up to you owning it, being in a position to influence it. And then because you've got the equity, you get to control what your win looks like. I'm stealing this concept. I like it.
I love it.
I like it. Right. Let's tidy up and tie the bow neatly. So if anybody didn't know you and says, Dr. Shub, what personal legacy would you want to leave for yourself and for this planet that you found yourself in?
I'm going to go back to the time when this probably came, like when I saw this question in my own life, or like, I'm going to use the same phrase, when the penny dropped for me, was when my father had passed away and we then had a eulogy. Is that the right word? Eulogy, or like when everybody comes together and speaks about the person. We were on stage and so many people came and said good things about him, and they talked about the impact that he'd had on their lives and how he'd connected them to so many more people and so many more things that had a huge benefit and a positive impact in their lives. And I said, wow, my dad wasn't just my dad. He was so much more to so many more people. He had a role to play in this world. And that's when I said that I've got a role to play in the world as well, with the people that I speak to, the people that I connect with. So the legacy I want to leave behind, I guess, and I haven't thought about this before, I haven't written it down or formulated, but the legacy I want to leave behind is that Shub was there to give me clarity. He helped me figure something out. And I think that's what I want to leave behind. Yeah. I
always say that on my tombstone, I want them to write Dr. Hannah Brew, 1989 to whenever, and they should write beneath it, she lived. So I'm thinking yours will be, he gave clarity.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Wow, I love yours. She lived. I love that. That's so nice.
Yeah. I've thoroughly enjoyed this really insightful conversation. We should have more. I thoroughly enjoyed it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, for me, this podcast is really, I get to talk to people I like.
It's so good. It's so good. Thank you so much for having me,
Yeah.
and I hope that your audience find it just as exciting.
Insightful, yeah.
I'm more than happy for any of them to reach out to me. I'm most active on LinkedIn, so Shubhendu Kulshreshtha.
So I'm going to leave your name and then your LinkedIn link below, so that anybody who is interested in the description, they can follow you, like see what he's doing. And he always has insightful things, really, really deep conversations that he has there. And every now and again, he goes on LinkedIn Live.
Yes, very often.
Yeah. To you don't know, you might just find yourself a free coaching session, which I'm eyeing. Hopefully I'll get, and then I'll get a bit more clarity on my life. Who doesn't need clarity anyway?
Absolutely. I do loads of free coaching. I do live sessions, and I'm doing a live podcast. So it goes live on LinkedIn and then goes on to Spotify and YouTube. It's called the Medic Side Hustle Podcast. I've got my website, which is coachwithshub.com. I'll be coming out with some skill sessions in the next quarter. And yeah, just like if you want to figure out what's going on with your life, your career, and how to make an impact, then come talk to me and I can try and help you.
There we have it. I'm happy that you ended up with saying what's going on, because I've been a bit more in my Marvin Gaye, you know, what's going on? What's going on? So if you want to know what's going on,
Yes.
Shub is the guy for you to say. Right. So till you come your way next week, it's bye for now.
Bye.